Hi everyone, good evening and welcome to the 14th annual Georgian Bay Reads. My name is Ashley and I am the CEO of Collingwood Public Library. I'm going to do a couple quick housekeeping items. If we do need to evacuate the building for any reason, which we won't, please follow myself or one of the organizers of this event who will lead you down the fire escape at the south corridor, which is actually just in this very far corner here. You did pass washrooms on your way in, but just for the record, they are just outside these doors on your left if you do need those facilities. Just an FYI that people in the first 3 rows here may be captured on the live stream. So like chins at sea level, big smiles, really like with your best. The camera's gonna follow sound, so basically no heckling from the audience. I am gonna start this evening by doing our land acknowledgement. The Collingwood Public Library has a responsibility to raise awareness of the history and ongoing impacts of colonialism on this land. We acknowledge the Lake Simcoe-Wasaga Treaty of 1818 and that the land on which we gather is the traditional unceded territory of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Ojibwe peoples. We honor them for having lived here and cared for this land from time immemorial, and we recognize the reality of our shared history and the current contributions of Indigenous people within our community. We seek to honor Indigenous peoples, history, and culture, and are committed to moving forward in the spirit of truth, respect, and reconciliation. I know we're on a strict schedule. I'm looking at Amy. So I don't want to take up too much time, but I do just want to remind everyone that tonight's event does mark the end of Ontario Public Library Week. So this is an annual celebration of the transformative power of public libraries and their contributions to our communities. So I just want to thank everyone involved in the planning of this evening's event and all of you for coming out to celebrate literacy, community, and libraries. And now it is my honor to introduce our moderator for this evening, Connie Cook.
Yeah. Some of them won't be that close to the mic, so not all of them.
Georgian Bay Reads brings together 5 local libraries to celebrate Canadian authors and communication between libraries in an event filled with lively discussion, good-natured competition, and an enthusiastic audience. The collaboration is also a celebration to celebrate Ontario Public Library Week. Each library has a defender and a book in hopes of convincing the fellow defenders and audience members of their book's merit in a live debate. The winning defender brings home a trophy for their library with the honor of defending the winning book. To our audience, as a moderator and prior defender, I understand the defenders' challenges and excitement of this unpredictable event. You're in for a treat. The audience needs to keep their program, as there are draws for prizes. Also, included in each program is a ballot for the People's Choice Award. You will put your ballot in a box of the book that was your personal favorite. The book with the most ballots will win People's Choice Award. To our defenders this evening, you are encouraged to be assertive, opinionated, and defensive, but to apply the gentle person's rules of etiquette. For our first and second round, each defender must write down their votes to help with fair play. Please write the title of the book you would like voted off and turn the whiteboard down. Keep it hidden until your name is called. Then you may reveal what book you are voting off and why. Should there be a voting tie, in any round, the defenders of the books involved in the tie will be given a minute to plead their case. Why they should remain, everyone will vote again, but they can only vote for one of the 2 books involved in the tie. So, introducing this year's Georgian Bay Reads defenders, our star representatives are Michelle McKenzie, representing Clearview Public Library. Gia Lynn, representing Collingwood Public Library. Elgin Petsia, representing Meaford Public Library. Carrie Adams, representing Springwater Township Public Library. Patricia Copeland, representing Wasaga Beach Public Library. In this first round, each defender will take 4 minutes to introduce themselves and then share the title, the author, and a brief, passionate review of their book and why they chose it as the best piece of Canadian fiction, with the option to read a paragraph of their book. Michelle.
I knew it. That's the first step. I'm Michelle McKenzie, and I represent Clearview Public Library. Tonight, I'd like to bring your attention to my choice, The World of Wonders by Robertson Davies, formerly, or I'm going to call him RD tonight. So when the night is dark and stormy, and you have one good book to read to transport you to another time and place, please consider picking up the story of Paul Dempster and his autobiography of his adventures. I remember that I took stock of myself as cold-bloodedly as I could, but not, I think, unjustly. The Deptford's parson's son, the mad woman's son, had become a pretty widely experienced young tough. I could pick pockets, I could push dope, I could fight with a broken bottle, and had picked up the French knack of boxing with my feet. I could now speak and read French, a little German and Italian, and I could speak a terrible patois of English, in which I sounded like the worst of Willie and Charlie combined. What was there on the credit side? I was an expert conjurer. I was a deaf mechanic, could mend anybody's watch, and humor an old merry-go-round. I was still, so far as my own sexual activity was concerned, a virgin, and likely to remain one, because I knew nothing about women other than fat ladies, bearded ladies, snake women, and mid-camp gypsies. As you see, I was a muddle of toughness and innocence. Of course, I didn't think of myself as innocent, what young man ever does. A verse from the Book of Songs keeps running through my head that seems to me to describe my state perfectly. I am become like a bottle in the smoke. It is a verse that puzzles people who think it means a glass bottle, but my father would have never allowed me to be so ignorant as that. It means one of those old wineskins the Hebrews used. It means a goat skin that has been scraped out and tanned and blown up and hung over the fire till it's hard as a warrior's boot. That's how I saw myself. But what was life going to pour into the bottle? You can read this tale as a survivor's story, a travel log, or even a history of theatre, sustainable culture in Canada. Paul Dempster, also known as Cass Fletcher, also known as Jules Legrand, also known as Winkle Fitch, also known as Magnus Essengreen, progresses through life in a traveling circus, to performing in a vaudeville show, to surviving in a geek show, to triumphantly treading the stage boards at a traditional school theater, and then he evolves into a master illusionist, wowing the crowds in real time, to actually becoming a film actor. Explore small-town Canadiana, visit London, and end up in Switzerland, as you actually devour this gothic melodrama of a book, which is also modern enough to touch the sexy, rowdy string so many readers want to hear. I read that life actually begins at 60. Until then, you are just doing research. And this book is a perfect example of that. If this is true, this is the story of a character who has certainly done an incredible amount of research to create a unique and unforgettable tale of personal experience and educational benefits to discover the truths of the cosmos, or otherwise known as Robertson Davies calls it, a world of wonders. So once again, if you have one book to read on a dark and stormy night, as I get the yellow light, please choose this one.
So now we'll hear from Jill.
I'm considering just yelling because this is kind of annoying, but can everyone at the back hear me if I yell?
Yes.
Okay, great, I'm just gonna yell.
You stand, it would be even better.
Oh, I don't know that I can multitask that professionally, but maybe once I get my courage going. So, hello everyone, my name is Gia Lind and I am defending Good Morning Monster, New York Times bestseller, which was written by local author Catherine Gildner. Good Morning Monster is a compelling and introspective memoir that delves into the experience of a psychotherapist, Dr. Catherine Gildner herself. The book unfolds a series of 5 case studies of her most heroic clients as they navigate through the profound challenges and traumas throughout their lives. Dr. Gildner also skillfully weaves her own personal journey into the narrative and explores human resilience, trauma, and the transformative powers of therapy. The book candidly discusses how deeply trauma can warp your perception of self and the way that you perform in your life and in your relationships. It is difficult, it is powerful, it is hopeful, and it describes a beautiful yet sometimes difficult relationship between client and therapist. I am defending this book on behalf of Collingwood Public Library, as I said, where I have recently concluded my employment here, but was previously the youth services coordinator. I chose this book not only because of the increase in mental health challenges since the pandemic, but because of the symbiotic relationship between libraries and individuals suffering from mental health concerns. Having served at the Collingwood Library, I have directly observed the pivotal role that libraries and librarians play in addressing mental health concerns and providing services to the community and to vulnerable populations. Whether you are directly involved in libraries or just supportive of our mission, it is crucial for all of us as members of the community to understand the impact of trauma on mental health and learn how to assist those that are facing such challenges. Working with people from diverse backgrounds, it is highly probable that those we engage with on a daily basis have experienced or are currently experiencing some form of trauma. It is imperative that we begin to uncover and comprehend the insidious nature of trauma and recognize how unmet basic needs can perpetuate a lifetime of struggle. Surviving without fundamental needs such as shelter, regular sustenance, access to warmth, hygiene, and intimacy is inherently traumatic, and therefore the cycle of trauma can be perpetuated every day for the individuals who utilize our community spaces. In addition, the author of Good Morning Monster not only illuminates the profound effects of trauma, but does so in a manner that humanizes the mental health experience. When referring to mental health, I don't just mean those who are experiencing housing insecurity or poverty. This book succeeds in humanizing mental health concerns by delving into the backgrounds of well-off clients, including lawyers, high-level executives, renowned Canadian musicians, regular everyday people who are barely able to survive their lives because of deep unresolved traumas. Mental health issues, as highlighted in this book, are more prevalent than commonly perceived, and they affect individuals in our own communities. Some of the clients written in this book, perhaps you've used Alana's law firm, or you've received an item from Danny's shipping company, or you've listened to Peter Chang's music. The individuals outlined aren't strangers in a faraway land. They're people in our own backyards. And because it is so common, because it can happen to any of us, and because enduring a traumatic event is not the fault of a survivor, it is our shared duty to understand the causes, the signs, and the symptoms of mental health, and learn how to extend compassion, support, and the necessary accommodations. I hope everyone learned something valuable from this book, and I'm excited to discuss the merits of the literature.
Thank you, Gia. Next, we'll hear from Elgin Petsiak.
Hi. Thanks folks for being here, and I want to thank my fellow panelists as well. It's amazing that we all have to defend our books, and I honestly deeply enjoyed meeting you all, reading all your books, and I can't wait to hear what you loved about each of your stories. So, as mentioned, I'm Elgin Petsiak. I use he, him pronouns. I'm the defender for Meaford Public Library. I'm also a member of the Meaford Library Board, and I am our library's OLS representative. So, I chose the book We've Always Been There by Simar Habib. Something I do want to remind folks is that while Simar uses she, her pronouns during the book, they actually use they, them pronouns now. For you folks that aren't sure about what they, them pronouns mean, you're welcome to take a quick look through Google later to see what that means and what that could mean for this author. So I chose Samra Habib's We Have Always Been Here. Their book is a memoir, and I would argue in many ways, a love letter to their past. They explore themes of queerness, gender, kinship, immigration, political strife, religious persecution, and most importantly, resilience. Habib discusses the complexities of growing up in Pakistan as a member of a religiously persecuted group, but also about having to hide their religious identity and not even being able to do that anywhere but their home. Once their family moved to Canada, their father was required to stay in Pakistan. Habib's experience of growing up in Canada is a testament to the ways that immigration, religion, race and ethnicity, gender, queerness, and age all come together. They discuss their difficulties in terms of themselves, the resistance to their forced marriage and to their cousin, their aspirations, and also just settling into themselves. Their experience speaks to numerous ways that intersecting identities can change the way we see the world that we live in. When speaking to Samra themselves, I told them how the book spoke to me as a member of the 2S LGBTQIA+ community, but also to much of what I didn't know. Despite being a member of Habib's community in many ways, they also taught me about Pakistani culture, immigration, and how I can better support Black, Indigenous, and people of color who are living in my own life. I believe this memoir speaks to a broad audience of people because it's accessible. It illustrates a complex story in a loving, kind, and readable manner, and their memoir explores how joyous all their identities are and how much we have always been here. So I'm going to read a quick excerpt from their book as well. My dad had parked in the car in front of the shops in Liberty Market as my parents researched for last-minute dress for my sister and me. I always hated the muted colors my mother chose. Grays, the color of concrete, or washed-out browns that reminded me of Ovaltine. As I waited in the back seat, I found myself drawn to the woman with a shaved head. Something about the spontaneity of her movements and the ease with which she rested her hand on her matte black motorcycle just captivated me. She's probably closer in age to my mother, who was in her mid-20s at the time, but similarities ended there. I had never seen a woman laugh so freely in public and be so comfortable in her skin while socializing with men and women, as if they were a regular occurrence for women in Pakistan. Eventually, she noticed my little face interrogating her from afar and smiled before shifting her attention back to the conversation with her friend. I seemed to be the only one fascinated by her. My younger sister continued to talk to herself, or maybe to me, who could say, in the back seat. Soon the woman was hiking up her black shalwar and adjusting her dupatta, securing it tightly so that her breasts were modestly covered, almost like donning armor before entering battle. She sped off on her motorcycle, enjoying the busy night before a deep trauma. Thank you.
Thank you, Elkin. Next, we'll hear from Carrie Adams.
Good evening. I'm Carrie, and I'm here representing the Springwater Township Library and the book Hotline by Canadian author Dimitri Nasrallah. I'd like to begin by quoting Muna Haddad, who, in the book, comes to understand that even though the world is built on transactions of uncaring and gestures of exclusion, there is still kindness that hides in its folds and between its layers. It's the theme of kindness and the tiny kindnesses that run throughout the book that really reinforced my choice in making the selection. It led me to believe that this book is essential reading for Canadians. I felt at the time it was essential reading for Canadians at this time, but I believe it's essential reading for Canadians of all times, and I'll get to that in a minute. Muna shares her immigration story coming from war-torn Lebanon and arriving in Montreal, Canada. She strives to provide for herself and her son, and as she does so, she and we come to understand the power of the smallest kind gesture, and also the opposing force of indifference and ignorance. And I say ignorance rather than unkindness or cruelty, because it is just that. It's the unknowing slights, call them microaggressions, call them slips, but the tiny things that we do, unknowingly, unconsciously, and without a willingness to create harm that do in fact do that. I felt it was important because it's a book about coming to this country as a newcomer and making our way amongst those of us who have come before. Right now, we are in a time in Canada where we are faced with a wave of immigration. Not one that we've never seen before, one that we see cyclically over time. New waves become old-timers welcoming newcomers, or not welcoming newcomers, whatever the case may be. At this time, these waves are appearing in places they never have before. I think in some of our smaller communities in Ontario, we are encountering levels of immigration that are unknown to us, and we are encountering some challenges. There are accents that may be difficult to understand. It is a kindness to wait patiently for someone struggling with a second language. It is a kindness to not comment on an accent, to not finish a sentence. It is a kindness to wait and to recognize that the server of your coffee this morning is here serving you because we have implored him or her to please come to Canada. We need you. As we face these challenges in our everyday lives, we can see that it's not much that can make a difference. As Muna faces the challenges in her life, a small gesture, her superintendent giving a slight wave to let her know her son has arrived, means the world to her. He's here and he's safe. It contrasts with the ignorance and the unkindness, and it's the best piece of Canadian fiction because it attempts to examine our country dispassionately from the perspective of someone who is not one of us, and yet, despite our flaws, longs to become one of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. And next we'll hear from Patricia Copeland.
Thank you. Thanks, Connie. Thank you to all my fellow contestants. It's been a pleasure to get to know each and every one of you tonight. All of these books are wonderful, but I want to share with you why I particularly chose Snow Road Station. This particular book is about a woman named Lulu who is 62 years old and at the end of a not amazing Canadian stage career, and who really does not know where she's going to go from there. She has no sense of where she's going forward. But this book, more importantly, has a broader resonance to it. It talks to all of us about the journeys we take in life, the choices we make in life, and where we end up and why, and how we see ourselves during that journey and who we might become at the end of the journey. And that is why this book, I think, speaks to more than simply the woman of 62 years old, as you might see at first glance when you look at who the major character is in the book. I want to read you a passage so you understand part of her journey. In this particular passage, Lulu has, without counting on it, met up with an old lover. And they have a conversation. And she shares her thoughts with all of us. So I'm going to read that now. She had been crazy about him all those years ago. His way of being a bad boy, but kind, living on coffee and cigarettes, wearing jeans without underwear, collecting books but never reading them, disarming her with eager loving that cost him nothing. Had he even ever given her a present? No, not even a Christmas present. And now they were 62 years old, and it was snowing again. She raised her collar, turned her back on the dark fortress of a theater and headed in the direction of Confederation Park and her hotel. The eerie quiet of downtown Ottawa on a Saturday night in March. Every time she had looked up these last few weeks, it was snowing on her walks to the river, doing her lines. Snow came over her boots as she walked. She remembered her mother saying that across the river in Quebec, they call the snow that falls in March a broom that sweeps away the old snow. What a cunning way to soften the blow of the never-ending accumulation. This snow is helping to get rid of that snow. This broken heart is getting rid of that broken heart. So the main theme in this book is definitely around Lulu, but there are many other characters I hope I'll be able to introduce to you who carry her along her journey. The gentleman she just spoke about, his name is Tony. He appears many times in the book, and he acts almost as her conscience at times. So I hope I get the opportunity to share that with you this evening. But what I want to particularly leave with you now is something that I want you to remember as we venture through this book together. This is a line from the book. Always what they are, and so changed from what they were. That encapsulates the journey we're going to go through together. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. So next we're going to do a free-for-all, and this is where the defenders ask questions about other defenders' choices, and almost everything goes, so have at it.
No one's looking at me. they know I'm armed.
Remember this smiley
Discussing
face.
this over dinner, actually, so I kind of know where this is going.
Well, when I was working my way through the books, I started with mine because it is the best. And I progressed and I ended only because of the timing that they arrived at the library. So they arrived and that was the order I read them in. And it was Robertson Davies whose book who appeared last on my list. And necessitating, of course, that I then had to read the prior Robertson Davies books in the trilogy to put it all in context. So if I was a little tired of Robertson Davies' characters' monologues by the end of World of Wonders, it should come as no surprise. However, he did provide a few gems for me for this evening for defending my book against the memoirs on the table tonight. Many of his characters in World of Wonders came to me time and again, saying things like, so few autobiographers have any feeling except a resolute self-protectedness, as in Gildener's book, where she portrays the characters after a fashion, with their permission, how she wishes to make her look like a superstar and to make them not look too bad. The character of Industry Shuts Down Memoirs, when he says, what's an autobiography? Surely it's a romance of which one is oneself the hero. Otherwise, why write the thing? And I think that goes to some of the issues that I have with the memoirs that are being presented tonight. When you tell your story your way with your biases and your embellishments, it's you might as well just stick with fiction.
Yes, but at the same time too, you mentioned self-protection, but I would argue that we have always been here, and especially the way that Habib writes it is very vulnerable. There is no protection. It's very raw, it's very selfless. They even talk about how their parents grow, how their family grows. I would think someone that's self-indulgent in writing an autobiography wouldn't have that type of self-reflection when it comes to the way that others in their life have grown as well. But that's just my perspective on the autobiographical aspect of Habib's work.
In that same vein, in terms of the way Catherine Gildner describes her clients and her patients in their journey, she is extremely vocal about the missteps and mistakes that she makes throughout her professional career, and I dare any of us sitting at this table to write a book about all of the mistakes that they've made in their lives, the mistakes that they have expressed during their professional capacity. Like, that is very vulnerable to openly admit to an entire room full of people, let alone in a literary capacity, the mistakes that they have openly made as a therapist with someone's life direction in their hands.
Well, thank you, defenders. So, it's time now to vote the first book off the table. So votes will be read on the whiteboards and flipped over, concealing responses. Each defender writes down a title they want to vote off. Keep it hidden until I ask for the defender's name. When I ask for the name, the defenders hold up the whiteboard to reveal the votes to the audience, and they can state a short comment about their vote. Strategic maneuvers and alliances are allowed. So shall we start with Gia?
I would like to eliminate World of Wonders. For super different reasons.
That was suspense, it wasn't.
Oh.
Oh, you're the first person.
Elgin, you're next.
So I personally also chose World of Wonders. I chose World of Wonders because ultimately, while it is a period of its time, it doesn't stand up to what it needs to today. Books need to be inclusive. They need to be thoughtful. They need to be reflexive. And I felt that Robertson Davies does not do this.
Carrie.
I voted Good Morning Monster because it's the book that causes the population at large to deem themselves psychologists and analyze one another as narcissists and passive aggressives and bipolar and obsessive compulsive, whether we really are or not.
Okay. Well, I'm going with the crowd. So I voted against this book. I recognize that this author is highly recognized among the CanLit people. Maybe I should have voted that one off. Can I change my vote?
You might want to save the book though.
So, back to why. So for me, I felt the story did not stand alone. We were asked to read 5 books, and we were not told to read a whole trilogy. Therefore, to me, this book does not really meet the criteria of this contest. Although, certainly it is an amazing piece of writing, for me, it simply doesn't meet that grade. And I think also, with all respect to the author, it's very difficult for this generation to relate to things like circuses, okay? And I have to respect that. Of course, my generation, we didn't think twice about the animals not being treated properly. But more than that, I feel like it's a very self-indulgent main character that I just couldn't relate to. I tried, but I just couldn't get there. So for me, it wasn't a strong book. Thank you.
We have always been here. Once again, my criteria for picking a book tonight was a book you wanted to read on a dark and stormy night, and a book that you would want to read once or twice. Now, I will hold to one point. This is a standalone story. You didn't have to read the other 2, and that was not part of the criteria, but I will take what the contestants have determined.
defend against the memoirs?
Well, yeah, he's still current. Go for it.
So the first book voted off is World of Letters. Our next round will be 4 defenders, and they're going to be describing their books in 3 words. That's the question I have to ask. And then you have a chance to answer that question in 3 minutes. So first 3 words, then the 3 minutes. And then there'll be another free throw. So let us start with Elgin.
Perfect, thanks so much. So I chose 3 words, first being accessible, second being impactful, and third being needed. Say it again? Yeah,
You just put it in front.
my roller coaster isn't gonna make it through the night. Jeez, dramatic effect. The show must go on. So I chose accessible, impactful, and needed. Needed. N-E-E-D-E-D. Needed. So I chose the word accessible because it's readable, it has a great flow, and it's a wonderfully written memoir. While dealing with a lot of difficult topics and experiences, Habib demonstrates a reflexive method that shows growth and understanding. For instance, they discuss experiences of sexual violence, forced marriage, and religious prosecution in really profound ways. Regardless of whether or not the reader is a young adult or a seasoned reader, they will have the ability to learn in a safe and warm space. It could be on a dark, cold, stormy night in the fall this year. It is written in a way that flows incredibly smoothly, while also explaining different elements and experiences in a way that a reader can familiarize. So the second one I chose was impactful. As a reader, I myself learned about my own community as well as Samra's. Their memoir taught me about what it is like for Habib to immigrate, what it is like being a queer person of color, a femme person, and what their come-of-age story is. Many times, the queer community and folks are expected to recant our coming out stories. Habib does this from a place of kindness, while reflecting on the difficulties faced by those around them, so both themselves and their families. Not only does their lived experience impact you, but their writing draws you in and teaches you about yourself and those around you as well. So the final word, needed. Habib's memoir is honestly one of a kind. There's very little like it out there right now. The story is needed, the book is needed. It is needed by those who are Muslim immigrants right now in Canada. It is needed by people who are queer and trans and their family members who want to learn. It is needed for people wanting to learn more about the complexities of immigration and assimilation in Canada. And it is needed for those who just want to learn about cultural sensitivity and the complexities of religious or spiritual backgrounds they may not be a part of, for instance, the Muslim community. And it was honestly needed by me. The lives of 2S LGBTQIA+ individuals, so the queer community, especially Black, Indigenous, and people of color, are often underrepresented, underpublished, and undervalued. So despite being about a queer person of color who is Muslim, the story teaches us about acceptance, love, honesty, and growth. And it is needed for many readers, I think, in our libraries across this area. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Elgin. Next we'll hear from Carrie.
Thank you. The 3 words I chose to describe the book Hotline were authentic, relevant, and optimistic. I feel that I have, in many ways, as I read through the book, there were a lot of parallels in the character story and my own. Seems strange. The main character came from war-torn Lebanon and moved to Montreal at the age of 29 as a single parent, none of these things paralleling my existence. If I could relate on so many levels to this book, it says that many people must be able to. It's authentic. I do know Montreal. I have visited the city. And I've studied in the province of Quebec. I have been on the outside of that community. I've spoken a French that they do not speak. And I realized the distinction they make between the Pure Laine and the rest of us. I have had those language experiences. I have lived in a country where I didn't speak the language and tried to do my very best. Sometimes successfully, but never quite making it into the cultural warmth that the citizens had. In that way, I guess I have shared a little bit of immigration experience, but not to the same extent. It's relevant and became more relevant last week when once again we have issues in the Middle East cropping up. And we can understand what people endure that we do not endure here in Canada, as is pointed out in the book. How much we can worry about our weight and when we're going to be able to afford a house for our kids, when we don't have to worry about the car beside us exploding in the street. It's optimistic despite those things because by the end of the story, we do realize that we can do something. Our acts of kindness don't just ripple, they multiply and they expand exponentially. They have such a large impact for such a small deed and a small action. So that's why I thought it was very optimistic. She does make it through. She does do well with the language. She does succeed in her workplace. She does raise her son. She gets it together and she feels positive about the future. And that's the optimism in Hotline. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. And next we'll hear from Patricia.
Thank you. So the three words for me that resonate the real meaning of this book. I'm on a roll here. Solution, I like it. The three words for Snow Road Station to me really are very simple ones: love, lessons, and acceptance. And as you journey through this book, you understand that Lulu, at the very beginning, really struggles with the concept of love, whether it's love for her close friend Nan and the relationship that they've had over the years, from the time they were children in elementary school to when they came in their own way, different women for a time. Lulu became part of a commune, living in the 70s in Montreal, being an actress, surrounding herself with a wilder crowd. Nan stayed back at Snow Road Station, where they both grew up, getting married, having children, making maple syrup, having a much different life than her. But they did come back together, because as you know, as you age, sometimes with certain friends, regardless of the time you spend apart, when you get back together, it's like you were never apart. And that will resonate with many of you. The other part is loving those in your life who maybe weren't right for you, but you see value in that love anyway. And as you go through this book on Lulu's journey, you will see the love she has for Tony, the man she met when she was a beautiful young actress, just starting out, and he was this very handsome man who turned her head, took her into his life, and enveloped her in his love. The problem was that Tony could do that for many women. And so, Lulu carries on with her life for a time without Tony. But interestingly, as she's going on this new journey, trying to figure out who she is and where she's going, he pops up again and brings back all those memories and all those times that she wondered what the heck she was doing with him. And she learns from that. And that's where the lessons come. The lessons come from the people in the book she interacts with, the people who give her insights into who she was, where she came from, and maybe where she could go. Maybe. Finally, acceptance. Acceptance for her doesn't happen until much later in the book. So you have to hang in there, all right, before you find this out. Give it time. Because finally, in the end, she sees who she really is. Now, today, who she's become. Yes, she's still the same Lulu that went to Montreal, that wanted to be an actress, that wanted to be successful. She's still that girl inside, but she's much more than that. Carrie and I wondered which one of us would be first.
Thank you, Patricia. So next, we'll have another free-for-all. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Math's not my favorite.
Okay.
Go ahead, Gia.
So the 3 words that I chose to describe my book this evening is provocative, indispensable, and resilient. It is provocative because this book is so many different emotions rolled into one. It is challenging, it's unsettling, it's disturbing, and it forces you to go very inward and look at the own traumas and tragedies that have occurred in your life. However, despite those difficulties in the book, it is simultaneously hopeful, inspirational, enriching, and allows you to reflect on the hardships that you've personally overcome throughout your life. As a reader, you are going through your own therapy journey from start to finish alongside the clients outlined in the case studies, which is an extremely powerful feat for the author. It is indispensable due to its educational value and the insightful lessons it imparts about oneself and others. It serves as a tool for self-discovery and a deeper understanding of the complex human experience. The importance of this book's contents cannot be overlooked. It is resilient in several ways: the clients themselves and the victories they achieve at the end of their therapy journey, Dr. Gildner's dedication spanning nearly 3 decades of her professional career, and the reader's persistence in engaging with the impactful stories and with the book's contents, difficult contents.
Thank you, Gia. So we're going to have a free-for-all round, and that means you all get to ask each other questions, have opinions, promote your own choice, and we'd like to hear from all of you. Go ahead.
I'll happily start off this round. I feel like there's kind of an ongoing theme between the books chosen this evening about a journey of self-discovery, kind of finding your identity and where you fit in. There's a lot of struggle outlined in a lot of the books. I think, like my book through therapy, we've always been here through connecting with the queer community, Hotline through settling in an unfamiliar country and trying to make a life for yourself. With Snow Road Station, however, I found that Lulu's story of self-discovery came from an extremely privileged perspective where she had an abundance of resources, and her ability to explore that self-growth was very luxurious in a way that wasn't afforded to the other journeys of self-discovery outlined in the other books chosen this evening. And yeah, I just don't know how her story of searching for identity can necessarily stand up against the other feats that the other individuals in these books have had to stand up to.
So I think to compare this book specifically to the journeys the others are taking, it's like apples and oranges. These journeys in these other books that you're speaking of are a journey of an immigrant, so a completely different situation, absolutely.
I think it comes down to having your needs be met though, and Lulu has all of her needs met and then some, so she's able to achieve the self-actualization that's necessary in order to
I would argue she does not, simply because she as an individual is not strong enough to see what's out there for her. And so that limits her ability. I think that in her particular case, unfortunately, she should have had it all. She definitely didn't get it all. And I think that speaks to her weakness as a human being rather than the fact that it was there for her. It's very different.
But someone's ability to like run away to an equestrian farm and take time off of their professional career and kind of look for themselves amongst the sugar bush like isn't a luxury that other people are afforded.
That's an interesting turnaround from your earlier point about the wealthy, elite, privileged few who also had struggles in life that you made earlier and who featured in this book, Good Morning, Monster. And at that point in time, you thought that they were entitled to have self-actualization and
Do you think they're
happiness
receiving
and independence as
therapeutic assistance to overcome your traumas in life and just wanting to learn more about yourself generally are the same thing?
well? It depends on the individual.
I thought we actually might come up to have this discussion, so I actually printed Maslow's hierarchy of needs. While the individuals in my book are actually down here, their psychological needs are not met. Lulu actually lives at the apex of self-actualization, needs inherently met.
So I would argue, red light, that's it.
You don't get to get the doll twice.
Thank you, defenders. Now it's time to vote off a second. So just a reminder, the votes are written on the whiteboards and flipped over, concealing the responses. Each defender writes a title down that they want to vote off. Keep it hidden until I ask for your name. When I ask for your name, the defenders will hold up the whiteboards to reveal their choice to the audience and can state a short comment about the vote. Strategic maneuvers and alliances are allowed. So I think this time we'll start with Carrie.
We have always been here. A good book, a good story, timely, but for my generation, our generation, I think this is our generation. I think I'm still in the generation, having gone through AIDS and the trials and around those years and the fight. It's not a new story. And it's sad that we have to have it in our library. I want it in our library, but it's not tonight's choice.
And next from Patricia.
So for me, Good Morning Monster. This particular book, although it's incredibly interesting, it really strikes me more as something you would see on the shelves for students that are learning psychology in university, rather than as a piece of fiction. There are 5 separate individual stories in here about people going through therapy with great lessons learned by the person who's written the book and has lived the life of a therapist, and gives some really good pointers as well. So yes, if it were a textbook, absolutely. Yes, if it were on the shelves of a university, 100%. But for the purposes of this evening's presentation, I don't think it's a fit.
Thank you, Patricia. Next, we'll hear from Michelle.
We have always been here. Once again, it's a dark and stormy night, and what book do you want to read and read twice? Unfortunately, this one's not the one for me.
Thank you. Gia?
I chose Snow Road Station. Unfortunately, I just did not resonate with the characters at all. I think it is written from, if we're talking about generations, from a completely different generational standpoint, one that I personally will never quite understand. So that is why I chose Snow Road Station.
Thank you, Gia. Elgin?
I too chose Snow Road Station, but I'm going to be honest. I thought this book was actually really great. I thought that reading it as someone that's not a member of that generation was really enlightening. It was great to see the story out there. But the reality of the situation is when I got through it, I was like, I would recommend it, but I would forget it. It's a beautifully written story, but it's not one that really sticks with you. But I think it was a great choice, but I don't think it's our winner this year.
That's a tie, folks. Thank you, Elgin.
Well, it's a 1-minute plea for you always being here in Snow Road Station. Vote one of those 2.
Okay, so go ahead. We've both been here.
Now what do they do?
Tiebreaker.
So I quickly want to address something that a couple of my fellow panelists have mentioned. I think they totally underestimate the ability of many folks who are in this audience, this generation, to empathize and understand the experiences of folks like Samra. I know that while some of the things that may not feel relevant, and Hotline's kind of been mentioned as well, as there are some things that aren't relevant, but at the same time too, We've Always Been Here touches on many, many different aspects of lived experience. And I think that this is not only an educational tool, but I know that folks like my grandmother, who is, a devout Catholic, would also still want to learn these types of things, advocates for the queer community, and wants to learn. So I want folks to read this regardless, because I think that there's a lot to learn, and I do not want to discredit any particular generation from having the ability to learn those skills and grow. Because I think the generational gap is still there. And that's why I think having this tie between these books is so interesting.
Thanks, Elgin. And next we'll hear from Patricia in defense of Snow Road Station.
So while I hear what you're saying about the generational difference, and there's no question there is one, I think it's important that different age groups learn about each other. And I think that in this case, you can learn something from this particular book and this strong character of Lulu. One of the things that she looks at is recounting her childhood experiences and how that makes her feel now as an adult woman. I don't think that that's something exclusive to someone who's 62 years old. I also think that when you look at things like love affairs and how they've impacted you, that's not something that only is for a person of my age. It's also something that happens when you're young, and I hope you learn from each and every one of those relationships. They all bring something to you. And so I think it's beholden to all generations to try to take an opportunity to get to know those who came before you and see what path they chose. And maybe you'll take a different road.
Thank you, Patricia. So we're going to ask that everyone vote once again. Put on your whiteboard, and then we'll go
Patricia and I are also voting.
I kind of know the way you vote,
Yeah.
write it down.
Stand up for yourself.
Okay.
I hope so.
So Patricia, let's start with you.
Big surprise.
That's what you want to vote off?
No, that's the one I want to keep.
Don't change that vote off.
Oh, we don't change that till the end. Okay. Wrong.
I was very excited.
I bet you were. I'm going to reread that book anyway. But yeah, we have always been here. Simply because I think it's, as said previously, I read it, I loved it, but would I pick it up again? I probably wouldn't.
Okay, thank you. Michelle.
Oh, no, Elgin first.
Oh, sorry.
So surprised, but once again, I will just reiterate some of the things I said. I do think that the book is really great, and I do think that, what Patricia said is really, really helpful as well, because, as someone in my generation, I still loved reading it. And I think there's a lot that resonates with a lot of folks, but with We Have Always Been Here, there's so much learning that comes from it on a real contextual, today, in this world, in this community basis. So that's why I wrote it.
Thank you. Okay, Michelle?
Courage in my convictions.
And Gia?
I am keeping my submission to eliminate Snow Road Station.
And Carrie?
We Have Always Been Here. As much as I appreciate the importance of the story, and there's always new people to hear the story and gain the information and learn it, it doesn't have the same newness to me that it does to you.
Thank you. So that leaves us with 3. Good Morning Monster, Hotline. Wasn't there another one? Snow Road Station, yes.
You're just making, go on.
Okay, we're going to have an intermission now for 15 minutes. I'll just kind of let you know what we're doing during that time. On the stage, we have ballot boxes for each book. So they're
Out in the hall, not
out in the hall.
Right outside these doors.
Everyone is invited to vote for the People's Choice Award by putting a ballot in a ballot box.
Still valid, people's choice, still valid.
There is a ballot in each of the programs for you to put in the ballot box of your choice. Please admire the artistic. The ballot boxes, the ballot boxes represent each book. There's a slot for you to drop in your vote, whichever book that you choose. People's Choice Award. You'll find washrooms and refreshments. Washrooms there. Refreshments in the back. And there are beer and wine samples. Enjoy your 15 minute break.
Like 10 seconds.
welcome to the Meaford Public Library. Come on, let's go inside. Welcome to our library. And welcome to our adult collection. We have fiction and nonfiction, and all of our shelving is 100% accessible. And this is our teen department. It's perfect for hanging out with your friends. Welcome to our junior department. It's perfect for story time and playtime. We have many meeting rooms available for use at the library. Our living room area is perfect for reading the daily papers or your favorite magazine. We also have a library of things where you can borrow items such as ukuleles, pickleball kits, and bird watching kits, and snowshoes, and so much more. We even have a self-checkout machine. And it can scan multiple books at once. Perfect. Or if you'd like to see a friendly face, come over to our circulation desk. It's even built for accessibility. Enjoy a cup of coffee and a great book in our library parquet. We hope to see you soon.
I'm standing in what will be the future arena, the spectator arena of the Cortellucci Zancor Center. We're pleased to see the roof trusses going in on this, the second larger arena. We've got roof decking on the library already. Here there will be fixed seating. The majority of the stands, I think 9 or 10 rows, looking across to 3 or 4 rows on the far side. Hello everybody, Chris Rose here from the Town of Wasaga Beach Recreation and Facilities Department. I'm standing in the spectator arena at our future twin pad library facility. You can really start to see the finishes. Exciting here in early September 2023. The lights are on, the dasher boards are installed. You can see these stanchions where the glass will go soon. We are getting close, the final touches on the epoxy flooring before the fixed seating is installed. A lot of exciting progress in our shots today. Looking forward to showing you around the building. So I'm standing here in the youth end of the library. You can see all of the adult stacks will be up to this end, 2 classrooms. This will be where one librarian is positioned to kind of see all of the action at this end of the building. There's a small playground out towards the lobby glass and cubicles in this first nook for kids to sit like in restaurant cubicles, and beyond that the video gaming area. But really nice building. There's windows in one of these 3 private study rooms, and there's a larger group study beyond the maker space and the digital lab up behind me. So I'm standing here at the west end of the lobby, just beyond the entrance to the library. You can see the large format tile. Some of it is matte, some of it is shiny. It's designed to reflect down from the upper clear story. Obviously, really impressive feature is this large ceiling, wood slats with felt behind it, designed for sound attenuation.
Some winners.
Okay, can everybody hear me? All right. So, I am the lucky person who gets to hand out the door prize. So, we have 6 bags behind me, and these are just from little goodies, a book, and maybe something else in it that we compiled among the participating libraries. Pull up your program, look at this number. And to make sure I do not cheat, I'm entering them into my phone using a random number generator. So I'm not cheating on this. I'm giving them to people right now. Alright, so the first one, if you have program number 46, come up and get your prize. Great. Congratulations. Thank you. All right, let's do this again. And you have number 37. Come up with your prize.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, generate. Number 25.
No.
This happens every time. Are you gonna cheat? All right. Number 69. Congratulations. Okay. 14. And we have one last one. Lucky number 4. And now on to the rest of the show.
Okay, so for our Georgian Bay Reads bonus, we do have a People's Choice winner, and that's selected by you folks in the audience. The winner of the People's Choice Award goes to Good Morning Monster.
Someone? Okay. Well, thanks, someone.
Okay, well that was exciting. Now we're going into round 3. So round 3, 3 people left, 3 books. So 3 minutes. Each one of you is going to describe how the setting or plot of your book has had an impact on the overall reading experience. And so we'll start with Gia.
Okay. So, Good Morning Monster is, as we have established, the book of 5 of a psychotherapist's clients. So the entire story takes place within the walls of a therapy room. So the setting of a therapist's office in Good Morning Monster significantly impacts the overall reading experience by providing readers with an intimate and insightful view into the realities of a therapist and provides a realistic portrayal of how to heal from trauma. It immerses readers in the environment where therapeutic decisions are made and advice is provided. Readers can observe the thought process, strategies, and ethical considerations that therapists employ to assist their clients. This insight adds depth and authenticity to the narrative, allowing readers to appreciate the complexities of the therapist's role. The therapy room setting also enables readers to accompany clients on their therapeutic journeys. By following the sessions week by week, readers gain a comprehensive understanding of how healing from trauma actually unfolds step by step. They witness the incremental progress, the setbacks, and the breakthroughs that the clients experience. This intimate view offers a more realistic and empathetic perspective on the challenges and victories that come with the healing process. Being in the therapy room with the client and with the therapist, the setting also helps readers connect to the client-therapist relationship on a deeper level, understanding their combined struggles and resilience. We are able to observe the development of mutual respect and watch as their dynamic becomes more complex as the sessions unfold. This humanizing approach fosters greater empathy and a sense of shared experience, making the book more relatable and emotionally resonant.
Thank you, Gia. Next, we'll hear from Carrie.
Try with the mic. Is it on?
No.
Now I'll try with the mic.
The setting of Hotline is significant because it's not here. It's not here in Collingwood, it's not here in Simcoe County, it's not here in Ontario. And it's not in Toronto. It's in Montreal. Montreal is a city in Canada that has been defending its distinct culture and fighting to preserve it for my entire lifetime and probably before. They have language policies that promote French at the exclusion of English and other foreign languages. They've been trying to transition to a secular society, and we have no religious symbols in government offices and in classrooms. And into this setting, into this culture, is where a Lebanese immigrant arrives. And so I think it's significant. I think it's a difficult place to be another. She arrives in Montreal from Lebanon, from the Middle East. Certainly, right now, we're seeing, once again, the sort of horrific experiences that she experienced before landing here. So I feel that the setting, the primary setting of Montreal, and the secondary setting of her homeland is a very important aspect of the book.
Thank you, Carrie. Next, we'll hear from Patricia.
Thank you. For me, this particular book is all about plot. I think that in this particular book, the strength of the plot comes from the strong characters within it, and the author's ability to grow those characters over a period of time so that they become not flat but rounded, and we see them from many different angles. A prime example of this would obviously be the main character, Lulu, who starts out very self-indulgent, very self-interested, and completely surrounding herself with the concerns about learning her lines, about not being an actress, about not being young and beautiful, where she then travels forward in time, and because of the influences from individuals like Tony, who she's had a long history with, and absolutely the friendship she's had with Nan, who keeps reminding her that she's a good person, that she has the ability to change, that she can move forward, that she can only look ahead and should only look ahead, and things will be okay. I think that that is where the strength in this book lies. Now, you could also argue that setting matters, and the reason I would mention this is because as you read this book, you will absolutely become much more knowledgeable about the small town of Snow Road Station and the fact that it relies on maple syrup as its major industry, and how the intricacies of that particular process make every difference in the people's lives. They rely on Mother Nature. If they have too much cold, it doesn't work. The sap doesn't flow. If they have too much heat on the sap when it's boiling, then the sap doesn't produce properly and it's burnt. So it was difficult, as you can tell, for me to choose plot over setting. I think they feed each other in this particular book.
Thank you, Patricia. Now we will have a 3-minute free-for-all. So everyone dive in and tell us why your book is best.
Well, in general terms, or within the setting plot? In general terms?
Anything.
Well, I don't think there's been a lot of feedback about Hotline so far, so I'll give you an opportunity to defend your book. Do you think that Hotline brings a fresh perspective to the story of newcomer experiences, or do you think it feels derivative of other works on similar subjects, such as The Reluctant Fundamentalist, Namesake, The Joy Luck Club, Americana, The Ungrateful Refugee, The Buddha in the Attic? How do you think your book stands up against those books written on a similar subject?
I feel that it stands up well. And I don't think it's a new story, and I think it is similar to, as I said, about We've Always Been Here. Although it's not a new story, it's an important story. And I think it's definitely a story for our time, for the reasons that I said, for the current conflict that is going on, for the large wave of immigration that we are experiencing, that is going to become an even larger wave year after year for the future, and because of the expansive location of immigrants in Canada. So they are arriving in my small town and in your small town, where the visible minorities are new, and understanding the humanity is increasingly important for us.
I have a follow-up question. You contextualize Hotline in a current stage, but it's written in the 80s, but you're talking about current bills. So for instance, the bill that was referenced is one that has actually been developed in the last 10 years. So why didn't the author use a current time? Why did this man decide to write from a woman's perspective in the 80s as a Lebanese immigrant, even when he could have written about, per se, that during this time, someone dealing with a current issue in current day Montreal? Why did he choose the 80s?
The more things change, the more things stay the same. Plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose.
And in this case as well, Omar is actually the author. He's describing his mother's journey as well. If you do a little bit of back search on the story, he is actually exploring his mother's journey in the 80s. So it's a fictionalized memoir of something that actually happened.
So why didn't he write from his perspective then? Because that's a perspective that he could actually speak to, as opposed to, any of us could write about, our mother's experiences, our parents' experiences, and write fiction about it. If it's meant to, inspire someone, why wasn't it written from his perspective? Because I think he has a very important perspective too.
Consider Omar.
From someone who hates autobiographies, though.
Thank you, defenders. Okay. So next we're going to vote off the third book. And so I'm going to ask each of the three remaining defenders, one at a time.
No, all of them get to vote.
Oh, all of them, okay. All of them. To say the title you're voting on. So I kind of forget where I'm at, so I'm gonna start with Michelle.
There are 3 books left, and they're all fantastic. But the third one, the one that I'm going to vote off, is Hotline. Leaving Snow Road and Good Morning Monster for the next 2 years.
Thank you, Gia.
I will also be placing my vote to eliminate Hotline. I think the purpose tonight is to discuss the literary merits of a novel, and in terms of literary accomplishments, one of the guidelines to look for is, does it stand the test of time? And as I alluded to in my question, I think there are a lot of other very kind of more nuanced books written on this topic that will stand the test of time, and I just personally, from a literary perspective, don't think that Hotline can live up to that expectation.
Go ahead, Alga.
I would like to mirror my previous 2 panelists and say a Hotline. Reason being, it's set in the 80s. But the author really could have contextually, if it is supposed to be fiction, it could have been brought up to more modern experiences. Could have drawn from the experiences of other folks in his family as well. So I think that that's the reason, is because it's not as contemporary as I have it.
Thank you, Carrie.
It comes across quite often that the book, because he says it's based loosely on, it's inspired actually by his mother's experience, that it is autobiographical, which is not entirely the same. Most fiction is inspired by real life events, and actually events in the writer's life. Things they're familiar with and comfortable with and have experience with, they can write authentically.
Could we have your vote, Carrie?
Yes, you can have my vote. I'm going to be voting to eliminate Good Morning Monster.
Patricia?
I've chosen to eliminate Good Morning Monster. As I said earlier, I don't believe this book is a fit for this competition. I think it's a terrific book for somebody who's studying in the area of psychology or therapy, and that is truly where it belongs.
We are down to Good Morning Monster and Snow Road Station. So 2 people left and 2 minutes to describe a character from your book. So go ahead, Gia.
Okay, 1 second. Well, the question I was given in advance is describe the most intriguing character in your book and how that character affects the major events in the book. My response to that being, I believe the character who exerts the most significant influence on major events in this book is Laura, who is the first client that is outlined at the beginning of Good Morning Monster. This case illuminates the growth so clearly between therapist and client as the story continues to unfold. The errors made by Dr. Gildner during this journey with Laura informed her approach to her subsequent clients throughout the remainder of her career. It was an exceptional demonstration of mutual advancement occurring simultaneously within the walls of the therapy room. Without Laura, Dr. Gildner may have not had the necessary tools to assist the other 4 clients throughout the book and the other clients that she saw over her 25-year career. She relates Alana's case, a client who comes much later in the book, to Laura's case several times throughout and makes it clear that Laura's case provided invaluable lessons for Dr. Gildner. While the narrative primarily focuses on the heroic journeys of individuals who have endured and triumphed over trauma, it equally serves as a memoir, charting Dr. Gildner's evolution over her accomplished 25-year career. Throughout the book, it is evident how deeply this client resonated with the author and left an indelible mark on her professional trajectory. Dr. Gildner candidly acknowledges her mistakes and missteps, offering insights into how she might have navigated certain encounters differently. Laura's case provided Dr. Gildner the tools she needed to successfully support her other clients, and that is why Laura's case is the perfect introduction for the book and continued to impact the unfolding events as the book continues to be written.
Thank you, Gia, and you were right. We were asking for the most intriguing character in your book and how the character affects the events in the book. So go ahead, Carrie. Oh, sorry, Patricia. You were looking like you were waiting.
I've been waiting all night to get to this character.
Sorry, Patricia, go ahead.
So for me, it's Tony Lloyd. In this book, he is the first lover that Lulu has, and he pops up in the very first chapter, and you really get a taste for who he is and how he impacts her, their interaction, which sets the stage for the rest of the book. He's an old flame. He knows that Lulu doesn't immediately recognize him, but he's so self-interested, he says to the wind, "Let's see if she recognizes my voice." I mean, really, like, a bit narcissistic, but you kind of understand who he is. And there's a line in the book that says, "Fields go back to forests, first love runs to fat." Okay, to fat. So, Lulu's looking at him and she observes this. He looks like Orson Welles gone to rack and ruin. It's not very nice. Milder shocks have turned a person gray overnight. And Lulu looks at him and says, "You're a mess. Lay off the candy bars." So this is their reacquaintance after a number of years. He was her lover. She lived with him. They ended up going through all kinds of journeys together. And this is the first communication, which really lays it out for the rest of the book. The next part, I would say, is when they're dancing at the wedding, he hands her sleeping pills and says, here you go, I know you're having a hard time sleeping because you've lost your job and you're going nowhere. I mean, such love. And then the next time he pops up, he shares with her that her nephew Blake has a pregnant wife that he's married, and that he's now going to leave the church and not going to be a minister anymore. Meanwhile, he'd been told that in confidence by Blake. There you go.
Thank you, Patricia. So, we have 2 defenders left, 2 minutes to make your final passionate case in favor of your book. So, let's begin with Jean.
So I want to just provide a defense for an argument that Patricia has made twice now in eliminating my novel, which is that if this were a university or an academic setting, this book would be much more fitting. But I actually pulled the guidelines for literary merit, and literary merit is what we are discussing here tonight. And number 5 is critical reception, and it states that works that generate extensive scholarly analysis are often seen as having literary merit. So I think her argument about my book being kind of overly academic in this point works in my favor, because that is what we are necessarily here to discuss this evening.
So I point out that it's number 5, not number 1.
Well, actually, number 1
And
is
it's often seen, not always seen. So to me, it's acceptable, but it's not at the top of the list.
Well, why should people vote for your book?
Thank you. This book, I think, speaks to all people. Anyone who's gone through some changes in their life, interacting with people they love and care about, looking forward to see what life's going to bring next. That's any age, at any time. And the fact that this individual learns from her experiences and brings home some things that we could all learn from, to me, resonates with anyone. I hope you'll read it. I hope you'll enjoy it, as I have. Thank you.
Okay, 2 defenders left, free for all for 3 minutes. Gia and Patricia.
Everyone's involved.
Oh, sorry, everyone's
involved?
Everyone can attack.
Make it count.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so number 1 in the guideline of literary merit is actually character depth. I found that the character depth in this novel, as much as you reference Lulu and you reference Tony, I found it to be extremely one-dimensional, because I think the overly heavy use of descriptive language about the setting and about Snow Road Station itself really drowned out the opportunity to have in-depth character growth and a complex plot at the same time. I think where the author lacked in developing the characters, she tried to make up for it with like this excessive narration, and it kind of just really muddled the story for me. And I felt very lost within the characters several times throughout the book, especially because there are so many characters as well that get introduced. And it's hard to kind of follow their relevancy during Lulu's journey and why they were even introduced in the first place.
And I appreciate the observation. You may have noticed earlier that I said I struggled between whether it was plot or setting. And some of the points you just made were the cause of that. But I do think that, interestingly enough, it's very important for the setting to be explained in that degree to that amount, because it helps you understand how the characters are seeing the world around them. And it also helps feed the exploration and the journey of Lulu towards where she ends up being and living. So I would agree with you in some ways, but I also would say I think it needs to have the strength in both those areas to feed each other. I don't believe the characters are one-dimensional. if you look at this book and only look at Lulu, I mean, absolutely, you could say she definitely grew. She changed. She went through a journey of self-discovery. But I think sometimes it's also important to recognize that toward the end of the book, even somebody as small a character as Blake, who is her nephew, who got married, who had a child with a 19-year-old woman who he married, and he's in his 30s. At the early stages of the conversations around their relationship, he didn't really want to get married. He also was a person who was very self-indulgent, looking only at what he wanted out of life. Then their baby is born, and all of a sudden he has an aha moment where he truly becomes a father, and he absolutely loves the fact that he's married and has a child. So as much as he was a minor character, if you look at the overall story, he did evolve in a small way. And I think that's very important to acknowledge.
So based on your kind of character descriptions, Patricia, one of the things I wonder is, where is that not happening? Where is there not that type of character development? Where is there not that same narrative? What is it about that Snow Road Station that's contemporary, that's today, that's why people in this community need to read it? What are they going to learn from it? What is it that is different from other books? Because I found the characters, while I enjoyed the book, ultimately I had very little to take away from the book other than, oh, that was a nice read. It didn't impact me, it didn't change the way I think about literature, it didn't change the way I think about the different characters. It felt like very much, I know these people, but teach me something I don't know. That's what I do when I want to read. I want to hear about characters I don't know. I want to hear about things that need to change in the world. I want to hear about things that are dynamic. Whereas I found Snow Road Station didn't talk about any of the contemporary issues happening in Canada.
An aging society would be one.
But I would argue that this collective of aging folks wants to learn still. There's a lot of wanting to learn in this community, and I see it. There's a lot of allyship and advocacy. So this is why different books are so important. Like, I'm not arguing for my book anymore, but I think that's missing from the Snow Road Station a bit.
So if I can answer that, I think that, in fact, you could learn from this. If you look at Lulu and her self-discovery and the patterns she went through and the way she looked back at her life, I do believe that anyone can look at that and learn perhaps how to reevaluate the choices they've made and the pathways that they've chosen as a result of those choices. So I do believe there's something there for you to learn, but I also believe there's something there for anyone of any age to learn, because that kind of introspection, but also evaluation, can only grow a person, no matter who they are.
Well, thank you, defenders. Boy, we're getting down to the wire here. We're going to ask you to vote for the book you want to win.
Oh.
And that's going to be all 5 of you. So we're going to start with Patricia.
Well,
I wonder.
I didn't spend all this time learning this book. But all kidding aside, I truly believe that this is a book for all people and all generations who are going through personal self-discovery and want to take the time to sit back with a cup of tea and enjoy Lulu's journey with her.
Thank you.
I would love if Good Morning Monster won. I think it's a very important book. I think it's a very timely book. I think that you can learn a lot about yourself and about others, and just, generally how to care for the vulnerable communities around you. And I heard a very interesting quote recently that I think is accurate of this book if you're considering reading it, which is, you can't have compassion for things that you don't understand, and you won't understand things that you avoid. So it's good to delve into something.
Thank you. And next is Ellen. Your choice. Carrie. Sorry.
Carrie.
Carrie. Sorry, Carrie.
Well, I'm actually delighted to get to vote for my second favorite book after Hotline as the winner, and it may come as a surprise that that choice is Good Morning Monster. I found it a highly readable book. I found it very interesting. As I was looking for some of the points to counter my own number one choice, I did encounter lots of good things that I could say, well, this isn't good, that isn't good. But if we're talking about that book to curl up with and a real page turner that flips and keeps you going from the beginning to the end, one that has a very broad audience, Good Morning Monster definitely qualifies.
Boy, we have a real race here. Okay, Alvin.
So it's pretty much down to me, I guess, because I could flip this either way too. I have pressure. Yes. So, I too want to vote for Good Morning Monster. I think this year we had two very polarizing books up for grabs for the winner. But once again, I don't want to diminish this community's ability to learn from history, learn from the things that people are writing about. And I think Good Morning Monster is, while it's a very dense read, it's very difficult to get through, it's not for the faint of heart. I think the content of it is incredibly important. And I think it teaches us a lot about a lot of very important topics. And from the lived experience, we all have had difficulties with our families. We've all had different aspects. And once again, you learn from what you don't know.
And I concur. I vote. An extra round of applause. She's put so much effort and she's gone above and beyond.
Do you want pop?
With a confetti, what a shot.
It's
beautiful. You, oh, Alex, my job.
You can say, no, you guys hold it. I don't want to hold it.
Alex, she was my coach. Round of applause for Alex.
Gee, I forgot something.
Oh yeah. Thank you, everyone. I am thrilled and honored, and as all of my lovely panelists, that was a difficult choice and a difficult conversation, but they are all important reads. If you take anything away tonight, any takeaway message is that all of these books here were phenomenal and that you will learn more than your brain can even comprehend. So, good luck and good luck.
So just to wrap up, thank you to all of our defenders for your passion and hard work.
Yes.
The libraries, volunteers, sponsors, and publishers for their generous contributions. Thank you all for your continued valuable support. And thank you to the audience for joining us tonight. And for your continued valuable support. Safe travel home. Good night.